Welcome to the Joe Watson Show podcast.
Well, hello and welcome along to the podcast this week. Hope you're well. Why is this lasting longer than I'm remembered? Yes, indeed, we're just playing that for the second or maybe the third last time before the new intro comes in. The very basic intro's coming. It's coming very, very soon. As is Christmas, Joe, I know. How you doing, folks? I hope you're well this fine Friday, the 29th of April. Can't believe April's almost over. When you get into May, then there's June, July, and before you know it, it's Halloween. I know, it's crazy. I love autumn time. I love the colours of the leaves. But I say my other favourite month's August. I love August. I love just the feeling of just like August. So folks, this week I'm going to talk about how I started radio, and I hope this is I'll use this week's as kind of an inspirational type thing. Maybe not even, maybe it's not inspirational. Hi Daisy, I know. I have to mention her as Daisy. And Grayson the producer, he's actually sitting basking in the sunlight. No, this week I want to sort of, if anybody out there is listening to my podcast, if anybody's listening out there, that's the first sign I don't know. Anybody that's listening to my podcast, or maybe interested, what the heck's going on here? Are interested in maybe becoming a radio presenter or a podcaster, I'm going to talk about how I started in radio presenting, and maybe move forward onto podcasting maybe next week. But okay, so how I started in podcasting and radio presenting was way back in 2012. Now, I'll have to tell you a bit about at the end of 2011. Okay, I'll actually talk about a wee bit from my childhood. Way back in the 1990s, I had always been wanted. When I was a wee boy, I always was playing radio DJ. And basically what I did was had this wee keyboard where I played jingles on, badly, yeah. And I also had a radio where I played the music from. And I recorded myself talking as well, so I had a wee microphone. But way back in the early days, there's a photograph somewhere of me just sitting with a brush shaft and playing music from the radio and jingling on and talking about the next song that's coming up. And that was my earliest memories of wanting to be a radio presenter. But moving on to 2011 or 2011, as we affectionately know it now, 2011 ended badly for me. The man who raised me, and the man who I called Da, passed away suddenly at the age of 78. My grandfather, 10 days before Christmas, and that was a massive shock and a great sadness. And it took me a year. I would say a year. It's actually taken me a guts of 5 years, sort of, to fully. You never really get over a special person leaving you. Like he's watching me now. I have a picture of him and my granny on their wedding day on my desk here in Studio 2. By the way, we're coming to you from Studio 2 because the basic fact is Studio 1 or Studio 74, well, it hasn't got Wi-Fi yet. And the reason why I want to do that was because I want to do all my podcasting and my Zooming and my putting the podcast over onto the laptop and then uploading it all from the comfort of the studio. But right now, I can't do that because there's no internet. So I'm still up in Studio 2 here up the stairs in HQ. So anyway, that happened in 2011. And I really enjoyed the first 6 months. I don't remember much of them, but that was in December, probably July time was the 7th month, and I happened to meet this guy on Facebook called Simon, and Simon, if you're listening, what about you? Big Rab would know who Simon is, and Simon was a guy who knew a lot of things. Simon worked for lots of different computer companies, and he worked for here, there, and everywhere. And he had a lot of knowledge about computers and about what computers could do. It was him that taught me to build websites. So in July of 2012, I had said to him, I've always wanted to be a radio presenter. Just leave it with me. What do you mean, leave it with you? And he did. He went and created a website, and he made a server, and we had a radio. We had a internet radio station. Now, it wasn't technically legal. Yeah. It was called MOB Radio, and MOB Radio stood for Macrofelt and Oma Broadcasters. And MOB Radio, or Mob Radio, as some people called it. I get tired with the fact where it could have went Oma Macrofelt Broadcast, but Radio might have worked, but MOB Radio worked. And he was able to get voiceovers and did jingles and things. And him and I did a show together called The Joe and Si Show. Initially, it was going to be the Joe Si Show. There was another guy called Joe, my friend Joe, and I will talk about Joe later on in this episode because there's something else happening, and I want to talk about that. So, we did our first show together, and it was fun. It was actually quite fun, and his end did all the music playing, but I had sent sort of a playlist of what I wanted him to play, and he got the music and he played it, and I did it over Skype, so we'd be able to talk to each other when the songs were playing, and then he would have said to me, right, Joe, do you want to introduce the next song? The next song would have been APC, whatever it was, and we did that for 6 months, and it was coming to about end of November. It was coming up to my granddad's years memory and years anniversary, and he said to me, I have found an online radio station that's actually fully functioning. It's licensed, so it's legal. But a wee story about before it went to that, I should have said, we call it the Joe Show, Si Show, but we didn't, I had to call him Si and he called me Joe, but we were other names, so I was Joe Rover and he was Si Winker, or Si something or other, and we never really used our own names. So fast forward, as I say, to the end of November, beginning of December, it was 6 months on. I was a year after my granddad died, and he had said to me, Joe, I found a radio station that's fully licensed. It's an online radio station in Strabane, and they're looking for DJs. So I sent in an audio thing. He had sent in an audio thing. Sadly, his didn't make it, but mine's did. But I should also. I'm skipping forward far too much. The Joe Watson show was always the Joe show was always on a Friday night. The Joe show. It was never the Joe Watson show. It was the Joe show. Obviously, because we couldn't give the name Watson, because then the license fee people would have found us. So it was the Joe show was on this MOB radio. Once it went to Strabane, it was the Joe Watson show, and that became the Joe Watson show. And the Joe Watson show was a mix. It was mostly country at that stage, because Strabane in the early days would have been all Irish country, so you had to play Irish country. But I would have threw in the odd bit of a mixture song, and it was going really well. There was people all over the world listening in, and they were interacting on Facebook, and it was a bit of crack, And then I started to get the feel for the ordinary music, not just the country music. Started to lose the country people, and started to gain all these people. And then Richard, the station manager owner, said to me, Joe, why don't you do a Saturday night show for all your he called rave music, but it was actually just like pop music, like Ed Sheeran and Adele and people like Boyzone, and he called it rave music. So why don't you do a Saturday night show for rave music and keep your Friday nights for country? So I agreed. So Saturday night show was booming, literally, and I remember him telling me that mine was the third most listened to show on Strabane Radio. Siobhan was a lady who did the country Saturday night show before me. Hers was the most listened to, which was to Richard as the boss, as we called him. With his his displeasement was the fact that his was actually the third most listened, or his was the second. He wanted to be first, but his was the second, hers was the first, and mine was the third. Well, I didn't mind. The fact that it was up in the top three was pretty good. And they averaged about 1,000 listeners a show. So, if I was the third, I would say mine was about maybe 400 to 500 listeners every Saturday night. Country show was about the same, maybe a bit more. And things cropped up, things went well. And then, I'm looking at it now, the Country Fest came to the Elk Bar on the weekend of 2013, August bank holiday weekend 2013. That was a year later. And I was invited. I'm looking at it came to my mind because I'm looking at the badge right now, the lanyard right now. I was invited to go and do a couple of shows there. So if you didn't know how internet radio works in a server, as I told you about earlier. And this server was able to link in and out of different homes. There was a Strabane radio studio, but that was really only for the ones from Strabane. There was radio presenters on Strabane radio from all the way from maybe England, or there was one lady from Scotland. There was another lady from America, and there was one lady who famed herself as Strabane radio's only, or one and only, or top. What is it? No, big one first. Or it was the biggest fan. That's what it was. The biggest fan of Strabane Radio Online was this lady, Vicky Lovens. Now, Vicky is no longer with us, which is sad. But Vicky actually fell out with me because she didn't like the fact that I wasn't playing enough country. She thought that I should have been playing a lot of country because she loved Irish country, as a lot of Americans probably do, and that's fine. That's fine. So, I did this weekend, I did 2 or 3 shows, and I got to interview people like a lot of Irish country artists like Mike Denver, and I got to interview Nathan Carter. He was the creme de la creme. He still is, but back then he was Mr. Wagon Wheel, as he was known as, because I think he just had come out recently at that time with Wagon Wheel. And it blew off the shelves. It really had just blew off. It was downloaded more times than enough. And it was played on my show twice a night on the Friday night. And got to interview him, Mike Denver. Had a great hoolie with Declan Nerney. Declan Nerney is one of the funniest men on this planet. Him and I had great crack. Moving on, about a month after that, I was given the opportunity. I was headhunted by a radio station. It exists now, but not under this name. It changed names twice or 3 times since then. I'm not 100% sure what it's called now, but it was called NI Country. And NI Country was a radio station, and it was an online radio station, and I hadn't done any. Well, I had. I'll come back to that. And NI Country, I did a show for 3 months, and then I got fed up doing just country, so I came back to Strabane Radio they gave me a Saturday night slot, but they didn't give me back my Friday night slot. That was fine. In the meantime, when I was doing all this online radio work, I had bumped into Rob via vlogging, and then Rob got his chance of becoming a radio presenter doing a piping show. And he asked me to come along. He had been doing it for about a run and a half, or maybe 2 runs. At that stage, Fuse FM was only, running, 6 weeks, twice a year, in July, and then at Christmas. So I think it was the Christmas run that I'd come on or something like that. And maybe it was, I don't know, but maybe it was the summer run of the following year. And we had a blast. I was his co-presenter, and it was hilarious. It was brilliant. It really was. I went back to, as I said, I went back to Strabane Radio in about 2014, and they did a poll, and somebody wanted a Sunday like gospel type show, and I nominated myself to do it. So here I goes. I did my first show. Northern Ireland being Northern Ireland, it's either one side of the community or the other. You'll maybe guess what I'm about to say. I got a text message I got a phone call from the boss man himself from Strabane Radio. And I can say this now because he doesn't listen to my podcast, and none of the rest of them listen to the podcast. He said, I was very Protestant. All that music was very Protestant. The only thing wasn't Protestant was the Ave Maria. And I said, well, it is a gospel show. The gospel is all about the gospel, the Bible, and these singers are singing about Jesus. And you know what exactly is it you want from a gospel show? And he says, well, I wasn't expecting that. I was kind of expecting something like Father Brian Darcy there on Radio Ulster. All the radio stations are available, by the way. I was like, Father Brian Darcy doesn't do a gospel show. He does a Sunday reflection show. Well, I thought we were going to do something like that, and I said, no. You asked me to do a gospel show. It was what the listeners wanted. I did it, and yeah. So, moving on. About 3 or 4 weeks later, I noticed that they didn't want it anymore, so I didn't do it anymore. So I was back doing my Saturday night show. And then you get the phone call. We were ready to go on air, and it was like, Joe, I'm sorry to tell you, but we're not putting you on the night with this young girl who's coming on to want to do presenting, and we thought it maybe be better to put her on instead of you, just for the night, to give her some scope, you know. And I says, right, okay. And that happened a few times, you know. Well, with this young fella, or Siobhan wants to do an extra hour, or, you know, could you do 11 to 1 instead of 10 to 12? And like I was thinking, I have work in the morning, I can't be on the radio to 1 o'clock, 12 o'clock's bad enough. And then it happened, and we had a row and a falling out. And I left Strabane Radio and the reason why we fell out was I had then, it was 2014, I'd been offered to do my own show on Fuse FM. And I wanted to call it the Joe Watson Show. And he was like, sorry, Joe, the Joe Watson Show is trademarked at Strabane Radio. I says, how did you do it? No, but you can't do a show on online radio and on a community FM radio with the same name. And I'm like, well, then change my show on Strabane to something different, like Joe's Rave Show. Trying to get back to him for calling it Rave. And he's like, no, you can't do that. We own your name. I was like, you can't own my name. My name's my name. There's probably thousands, hundreds of millions, probably, maybe not. There's at least 300 million people. Maybe not that many. But I'm sure you could find another Joe Watson somewhere in the world. I Facebooked them. There's been maybe 70. That's not 300 million. But Joe Watson is my name. So that was whenever we had the big fallout. I went to Fuse, did my own show, did my own radio program on a Sunday called the Joe Watson Worship Show, and there wasn't a complaint about being too Protestant or too Catholic then. So that then started that, and then about 2015, I just decided that I'd had enough about radio. I was going to give it up for a while, so I gave it up. And then I got married, and then we bought our own house in the town of Ballymoney. And the rest is history. I joined Fuse FM there in August last year, 2021, and I haven't looked back. And it's really good to be back. So, if my advice to anybody that wants to be a radio presenter, get yourself a recorder, and get yourself a bit of music. Get yourself an editing software, Audacity, maybe other editing, audio editing softwares are available. Record yourself introducing the song, tell a wee bit of a story, what kind of day it is, do a little sort of a piece, a little link as we call it in the industry, and then play a bit of music, and then send that to a radio station. You know, they'll give you training, they will. That is my advice if you want to become a radio presenter. Like me, it was my lifelong dream. So to be a radio presenter now, it's brilliant. You know, being a podcaster's it's kind of the same. But if you want to be a podcaster, just turn on it. Buy yourself a microphone. Start off with your phone. Just get a little plug-in mic like I did at the start. Join one of those many different... Anchor would be the best for the startup. I started up on Anchor. I'm now with Podbean. Podbean is for more... Like my podcast has now sort of... I've decided after about a year or two... After being on Anchor for a year... I decided that my podcast now needed to shift into being a proper standing one, so I went to Podbean. But Anchor's great for beginning because you just record the file, upload it onto the app, and it's there, and just name it and publish it. So if you want to do podcasting, that's what you do. Get yourself a voice. You've got a voice. Get yourself something to talk about, and you're hey presto even. If I can do it, you can do it. And I talk nothing but nonsense on this microphone. So yeah, moving on swiftly. Thanks for that, Daisy. Thanks for that, daughter. You heard me talk about my friend Joe, and Joe and I have been friends. I'm going to put this episode as explicit, maybe not. Joe and I had a mutual friend, and his name was Mark. And Mark's getting married, Mark's together with this woman. He has 2 Waynes with her, 2 boys, 2 lovely boys, and he's living the dream. And don't know why that's irrelevant, but whenever I remember Mark, first met Mark, and Mark was about 2. His mum and dad, who had been friends with my mum, and then my mum's best friend was his mum. And then they moved to England, and they owned a bar and this, that, and the other. And then they decided to come back to Northern Ireland. And then they had a son. They had a son that they brought over with them. It was only 2. They had the 2 older daughters, and yeah. So Mark was 2 whenever I met him. Maybe 2 or just under 2 or maybe over 2. I can't remember. And then they moved to this house in Marfeld. And I used to go visit Mark and play with, and we used to play about. And I'm a bit older than Mark. I think I'm about 5 years older than Mark. So we used to run about. We played PlayStation together. We watched questionable things on TV together when we were older. When he was a teenager. But we just, his poor dog, Rocky. Rocky's no longer with us, but I remember Mark used to throw stones at Rocky's private parts, try and hit him. I hit Rock in the wally. Joe, I hit Rock in the wally. Poor Rocky's wally. Anyway, moving on. Mark and his wee next door neighbour were playing one day, and I was standing there, as you do. I was about no, it wasn't. I was about 7, 8. 7 or 8. And maybe younger. I can't remember. I was about 7 or 8. I was. Aye. And this other guy, Joe, was standing. He was 2 years or 3. I think Joe's 2 or 3 years older than me. Maybe 2. And he was standing, and I goes, "Hello, my name's Joe." And he goes, "My name's Joe as well." This is crazy. I've met another Joe. I think I have surely. And we instantly became friends. And I would say Joe is my. Yeah, Joe's still my friend. He really is. But growing up, Joe was my best friend. We went to school together. We went to tech together in the same class at the tech. We had a fantastic time, and we're still great friends. We're still great friends. I've known Joe Totten now. Flip, say I met him whenever I was about 6 or say 7. Maybe no, it was younger. It had to be younger. 6. I think it was 6 because if I was 5 years older than Mark whenever he was 2, so that was 6. Aye. So it was about, I was 6 or 7. And I remember his mum used to say to me, always says to me now whenever I go see them, I remember you were just a wee fella, because I was very wee for my age. That's why I'm struggling to remember what age I was, because I was very, very short. But so Joe and me became friends. We played the PlayStation together. We run about together. We used to talk cars. We were on the CB radio together. We had our handles, and we used to, we'd have played Grand Theft Auto, and it would have been on the CB. Would have been playing taxis. So we'd have stole a taxi each on Grand Theft Auto. And then I would have radio in. There's a person looking for a taxi over on the beach, looking to go to wherever it was. I can't remember the locations now. And he would have drove off and got them. And then, because back in those days there was no online, so we couldn't see each other. So so he would have drove them to such a place. Then he'd have radioed me. Right, there's somebody looking at Laszlo's. They want to take you from Laszlo somewhere else so you can get them. So I'd have done that, and then I'd have rated in 10-4, done that. But great laugh. And then we'd have chatted a wee while on the CB, and then people would have butted in, so we'd have changed channel. And me and Joe had a great laugh. We did, and then Joe fell out with me for a while. I had actually found I discovered the joy of Photoshop. And Photoshopped Joe's head and body in somewhere where it probably... He took offence, and fell out with me. But we're now we're friends again, and we're very good friends, and we still play the PlayStation together now because it's live or online. We can actually chat on the gaming headset. We can have a yarn. We can play together. We can see each other. Well, not see each other, but we can see each other's characters. We can show around each other's properties, and we can take each other for a drive in our new car. And it's good fun. And we actually, the other night, we were shooting each other. We're doing that thing where they do a grudge match. And he won. He beat me. He beat me 40-36. I was ahead by 15 at one stage. How did he get me? So it's fun. Well, folks, I believe this is it for another episode. I'm sorry that I've had bored the absolute back end off you. But that's it. Tonight is the night that I record the episode with Rab. I think I might put it out next week. I haven't. I'm not sure. I may put it out that weekend. I'm in Glasgow. I'm in Glasgow. Laura's in Glasgow, but Laura's mum, she's house sitting with the cat, so she's looking after Mr. Grayson. She's staying in the house. Her and her better half are staying here. Her better half, I wouldn't say that. Her and her friend. That's who it is. Her and her friend are staying here for two nights while we're away in Scotland. And it's going to be fun because they're going to be playing with the cat, and they're going to be wrecking the house, having wild parties while we're over in I was going to say in America. I wish. Over in Scotland, enjoying ourselves at a wedding. So, yeah. All right. So, that being said, I was going to say something else, but I don't want to say it in case the people that are going to the wedding to you listen. And hello, by the way. Big congratulations to you. Well, you haven't got married yet, but yeah. So obviously, June, my mother-in-law, can't do the podcast for me. She could. She would do a great job. She would be hilarious. So I'm going to put that out on that weekend because I need that weekend off, and then I'll be back again. So that's 3 or 4 weekends away. So yeah. So the big grab. Big Grab will be on the podcast in a few weeks' time, but we're recording it tonight. So yeah, I have a lot of random questions. Rob knows all about my randomness, so I have some good questions for him. But if you have any questions you want to ask him, you can
email the podcast at joewatsonshow.com. Remember to check out the website joewatsonshow.com.
And on that note, it's goodbye from me, goodbye from Grayson, and see you all next week. Bye-bye.